Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video. We are back once again, and in today's video we're just gonna talk about something a little bit different, something that's very relatable, hopefully, because a lot of you guys, you may be wondering how to get your first apartment, so that's what today's video is going to be about. A little bit about how apartments work and how to do it, pretty much. So let's go ahead and give you guys a couple things about my background. So I have had two apartments, and I've had a third, which isn't really considered an apartment because I was paying rent to live in a hotel. So it was like a hotel room that you could use as an apartment, but it was when I lived in Colorado, so it's like $1,400, $1,400 per month to live in quite a small space. I think it was like 400 square foot or maybe even less than that. It was very small. So yeah, that wasn't really like the best thing for me to get used to, paying that much for such a small space. But eventually, after I had that space in Colorado, I moved. And when I moved to an apartment, which was a 2-bedroom apartment for just a couple hundred more a month, including utilities as well. So $1,600 a month was what I was paying in Colorado for rent and utilities. So after I left Colorado, I got an apartment here in the state that I'm in now, and I was only paying $609, which I know is a weird number, but $609 a month. I'm not sure why the 9 was there, maybe like a administrator fee or something like that. But $600 a month was basically what I was paying here, and that is without utilities. So I was paying around $800 or so a month, give or take. So how this worked is when I first got the hotel place, I was pretty much able just to pay. All I needed was an ID, and I was able to pay and stay there because it really worked more like a hotel than an apartment. So that was self-explanatory. You just go there, pay whatever you have to pay. Now when I moved to the next place, they pulled my credit history, and I don't remember or not if I had to do a down payment. I believe I did, but I could be mistaken on that. But either way, if your credit score is not that good, you will have to do a down payment on an apartment. That's typically how it works. Now, it may be different in your area, but my area and the experiences I've had, that's the way it's been. So right now, my credit score is really good, so I'm not too concerned about, loans or apartments or any of that stuff. But there was a time back then where it was really bad. Like, we're talking like low 500s credit score. So it wasn't the worst out there by any means, but it was pretty bad. So make sure your credit score is in check. If you want to get a Discover It secured card to start doing that, to build your credit, go ahead and do that. You need to start somewhere. You have to, because credit is very important for your entire life. If you want to get a house, car loan, apartment, whatever it is, you need a good credit score. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay a down payment like I did. So when I came back to Kansas, I know for sure I did have to pay a down payment. Now, this down payment was quite a hefty down payment compared to the rent. The down payment, I believe, was in the 400s, but the rent, of course, was around 600. So I had to have that money set aside, so I was able to do that. And another factor that kind of plays into a down payment being required is lack of history with apartments. So regardless if you have a somewhat decent credit score, you may have to still pay a down payment in order to get that apartment, just because they don't know if you're high risk or not. So with that being said, guys, if you are trying to get your first apartment, I would highly recommend it. But just number one, make sure it's in a good area, because good areas of town are kind of hard to come by sometimes. So make sure it's in a good area of town, and then following what I did, just try to make sure you have a good credit score, or a credit score at all, like something that they can pull from. Now, I believe some places they will not pull your credit, but the majority of places, like good apartment complexes that are running very well and making lots of money and all that stuff, like good places and good areas, they will pull your credit. I can almost guarantee it. So just make sure you have a good credit score, or like I said, somewhat decent. If you have like 600 or 600 something, that's okay. That's okay. So they can work with that. But if you have like 500 or like even below 500, get that in order first before you do that. Otherwise, you may have to pay quite a hefty down payment on the apartment. Another thing to keep in mind is those of you guys out there that have pets, cats, dogs, whatever it may be, it may be hard to get an apartment, or you may have to pay another fee, and this fee may not be a one-time fee. It may be a recurring fee every single month. So keep that in mind, that your rent may go up because you have a pet. There's different reasons as to why. Depending on the apartment complex, they may be worried about damage to the apartment or noise or whatever reason, but they probably will charge you a fee if you have a pet. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that there are apartments out there that have places, those of you guys that have cars, I'm assuming if you're getting an apartment you have a car, but some people don't, and that's okay. But some places have private garages and private parking spots, or like covered parking spots. So covered parking spots are to prevent from like hail damage, anything falling, like a tree limb, whatever it may be. So they have those outside, but they also have like closed garages where you can put your car in there, kind of like storage complexes where you can put your stuff in there, your beds, whatever. So these places are going to charge you quite a bit more to have an enclosure for your vehicle. So I believe the last time I looked at one, it was like $75 extra or like $50 extra a month. I believe so. It was up there compared to the rent price. So just keep that in mind. If you want to keep your vehicle protected, you may have to pay a cost for that. So just make sure that like you're ready financially before you get an apartment, because you will also have utilities on top of that. So make sure you're making enough money to do it. And I believe the way it worked is if you're getting an apartment by yourself, you have to make like 2/3 of the rent or something, or no, 3 times the rent. You have to make 3 times the rent. In like I believe it's gross pay per month. You have to make 2.5 to 3 times of the rent cost a month. So for me, if the rent's $600, I'd have to make I believe it was like around like $1,500 a month. Yeah, $1,500 a month gross pay from your job or other employment, self-employed or whatever. So you have to make 2.5 to 3 times the rent, and that is a requirement. They'll actually look at that sometimes to make sure that you can pay. And I believe it's a good thing for them to look at that, because they want to make sure that you can actually pay and they won't have to, evict you or anything like that. So just make sure that you're making enough money to get an apartment. I know a lot of you guys, you want an apartment like right now, and that may be unfortunate that you may not be able to get an apartment like that, but there are other places out there that you can get that may not be as nice or as reliable with like maintenance or anything like that, but like there's places out there you guys can get if you absolutely do need a place. But I'm just telling you guys my experience and the route that I went. So when I got my own apartment by myself, because the first 2 times I was with someone else, when I got my own apartment by myself, I was able to make that 2.5 to 3 times, but just barely. So I crossed over it by like $100 a month or something like that. So keep in mind, guys, they will look at different factors when it comes to buying an apartment. So if you guys have any further questions on how to get an apartment, how all this stuff works, anything really about apartments, let me know in the comments down below, and I will do another video about that, kind of like a Q&A specifically for that subject, or just a Q&A in general. If you guys want a Q&A in general, just let me know on that too. Like I said, any comments you have, any questions, concerns, whatever, let them know in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe down below as well. That red button right down there helps me out a lot. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up today's video. We're going on 9 minutes or so here, so we're going to cut it off here. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video.